This will be a delight. It's an interview with Lynn Mulder, who's been at the Red Deer, I'll call it college, just because of that's habit.
That's what it was
and
when I was there.
You can correct me.
Yeah.
Which has its roots back to about 1964 in with. I think I'd have to go back a little before that time to indicate that Red Deer was either the second or the third medium-sized community to get a college. It was called a junior college then, and wasn't the first. In fact, I've always been surprised that Lethbridge, for instance, roughly the same size as Red Deer, has both a university and a junior college. And how and why, and and how come we were, I won't say last, but the third, second or third. And then there's the other side of it, and that is, was it a good decision, and in the context of time, has it been worthwhile? But to give us a little introduction and background, Lynn, could you explain a little bit about your background, your education, and what brought you to Red Deer?
Great. Yes, I'm a nurse, was a nurse, but they say you're always a nurse once you're a nurse. Graduated in 1968 as an RN. Worked a couple of years in general duty and then went on to get my bachelor's degree.
Where'd you take your nursing?
In the University of Saskatchewan. I took my diploma and my degree there.
So you're from Saskatchewan?
I'm a Saskatchewan girl.
Too?
Yeah. One of the many that have come to Red Deer, right? That are here.
Like my mother.
Yes. Yes, I know. I think I talked to your mom about that. Anyway, and then I got my Bachelor of Science in Nursing, and I was really interested in teaching. And so I went to Toronto, is where I got a job, and I taught at St. Joseph's School of Nursing for about 5 or 6 years. And then I thought, I really like this, but I think I'd like to move a little bit. I'd like to have a little bit more ability to influence. So I'll go back and get my master's. So I did my master's at the University of Toronto in education. Then I came back out west, and I worked at the Royal Alexandra Hospital in curriculum development, and I was an assistant professor at the University of Alberta in nursing. I was a nursing assistant professor. And then I decided I missed the East, even though I'm born and raised in the West, and I went back to Toronto and spent probably about 15 more years in the East. And there I began, and I taught at Ryerson Polytechnical Institute for 1 year. And then I moved on to the community college system, and I worked at Sheridan College in Mississauga and at George Brown College in Toronto. And in those positions, I held positions of dean of, first of all, Dean of Nursing, then Dean of Health, and then my final position in the East was Dean of Science and Technology and Creative Work. And it's at that point that I came to Red Deer. And I came to Red Deer because I am from the West. I had an aging mother, and she was still in Saskatchewan. My brother was a doctor in the community. And they sent me, an ad for a vice president of education at Red Deer College. And I thought to myself, why not? I was already in another search with BC, the British Columbia Institute of Technology. So I thought, well, why not? I'll throw my hat in the ring here. And I did, and I was successful. And I tell you, from the moment I walked into Red Deer College, I felt a warmth and an affinity for it. And I told the other places that I was in the hunt for, is that Red Deer College is where I felt I was meant to be. And I've never regretted that. And I spent maybe 8.5 years at Red Deer College and enjoyed it immensely. And then, of course, moved on to City Council. So it was a good run. And I think back on those years extremely fondly.
So what year would you have arrived in Red Deer then?
I came in 1996, and that was when Dan Cornish was president of the college. And as you know, Dan was one of the nicest guys you could ever meet, and he was well liked by the college, and unfortunately he took ill and he died that year. And so I'd only been there about 6 months when the board put me in as interim president. So I was interim president for about 16 months at Red Deer College because of his passing. And then I went back to vice president academic. It wasn't a position that I applied for, president. I was very interested in students and faculty and programs and that kind of thing. The president's role is more external, as you know, in terms of building community. Not that I wasn't into that, but my passion was for students and for learning and whatnot. So, and I was followed, as you know, by Ron Woodward, and I was part of his hiring committee, and that was a wonderful hire that we made. And I think, I'm sure it'll come up, but I think Ron made a huge difference to getting the college closer to the community. You know, when I came, they said we're like the college on the hill. You know, we're better than everybody else, and we deign to speak to the community. Ron was excellent. Well, I think Dan started that, and I certainly tried to continue that. But when Ron came in, that was the time when I think was a happy time for faculty, because he created a great environment in the college, but great for the community, I think, because he was active in so many things. He had a great repertoire of skills that were helpful in terms of organization and change management and that kind of stuff. So, so that's the era that I was in. But it was kind of a quick rush into a presidency that I had never anticipated due to Dan's death. But anyways, you do what you have to do, and I enjoyed that part of it as well. But I was glad to go back to vice president academic.
Can you go? Red Deer started out as a junior college with
Yes.
very limited. Am I correct in saying about a 1-year credit that you could get if you went to some faculties primarily in U of A?
Yeah, and a lot of it was upgrading and kind of, because it started in a school as well, you know, so it was human studies and stuff like that.
But quite a narrow focus, a limited
That's right.
opportunity for students.
Yeah.
And how has it grown? What are some
It's
of the
grown
major
immensely,
steps that
yeah.
have?
It started off with, I would call it upgrading, although they called it human studies, but for people who weren't sure what they wanted to take yet, and so they needed a transition. They needed a preparatory step into pursuing whatever career they might want. And from there, it built into a lot of diploma programs that came about. And I think some of the first programs were things like business. I think nursing was a pretty close one to follow, but that was when we started to get more partnerships with the university. But the programs they kind of built. And Red Deer College always had a great reputation. And that was because they attracted great faculty. I'll say this, faculty with great educational background and experience, but also faculty that was very committed to students and to learning. And I mean, you know, you have your share of people who aren't, but there were some really great people there, and they had contacts in other schools and universities and whatnot, and were able to start developing programs that kind of crossed the board. And when I came here, and I came from Ontario, and I'd had a lot of experience in community colleges, and Red Deer College was a fairly small college in terms of what I'd been familiar with before, but I was always impressed with the breadth of their programming. And so I think they did a good job, nice balance between certificate programs and diploma programs, and eventually, as we'll talk about, I'm sure later, degree programs that we did with other universities and whatnot. And the big thing I think that we did really well, and it was under my portfolio and was apprenticeship. And during the time that I was there, apprenticeship grew. I'm not saying I caused that, but it was a time when apprenticeship was very, very strong. And we had one of the highest apprenticeship classes in Alberta. Like Nate and Sate were big, and then we were really the next biggest. And we kept growing, and we had a great reputation for that. And you know, I used to say, if we're going to serve a community like this, what's important is that you have something for everybody. Not everybody's going to go off and get their PhD, or not everybody's going to go off and want to be a doctor or a vet or a nurse or whatever. Many people want to do the trades, and they want to do like music and arts and stuff like that. And I think we had a really nice span of courses and programs that appealed to people of many walks in life, and I think it was helpful for parents and whatnot when they're sending their kids off to college, that there was something there for whatever their child's interest was. And I think Red Deer College did that really well. And in my way of thinking, I think they did it better than anybody in Alberta. I think Red Deer College had a good name for that, and they held it. The classes were fairly small. They said, yeah, we want to send our kids to Red Deer College because the students will have one-on-one contact with their teachers. The teachers are going to worry about where they are. Not if they're missing, they're not going to let them go for 6 months and not know where they are. They took a real interest in them and whatnot, and that was good. And like I say, when I came to the college and the day that I walked in and after my interview, that's the feel I got. It was like a family feel, and learning was everything, and students were the most important thing, which is how it should be. So I think it came well. And then when I was there, I know I might be jumping ahead, stop me if you want to, but while I was there, if I was looking at what I think the most remarkable things that were happening then, and it was starting in the East as well, but we started getting more into providing opportunities for students to get a degree in Red Deer. And initially, when I first came here, everybody said we had to be the degree grantor. But that wasn't going to be, and I was in many meetings. When I was there, across the province, it was very difficult to make every community college degree granting. First of all, it costs a lot more to grant degrees because the faculty are prepared at a different level. They teach less hours and whatnot. But there were many opportunities, and I call the time that I was there what I felt like it was a time of partnerships. And so we started partnering, and we got into collaborative degrees. And we collaborated with U of A and U of C and with Lethbridge. And we offered, parents could send their kids to Red Deer College, and they could exit with a degree, and they could take it all at Red Deer College. And to me, that was really important. I think it's important to be degree granting, but I think in terms of a role of a college, it's to serve your community college. You want to make sure they have access to it. The degree granting, our own degree granting, is more for, I think it draws people to a community and saying, hey, there's a university in Red Deer. But at the same time, for me, it was always most important that we had opportunities for students to get their degree here. And so people can become a teacher here with a degree, and they can become a nurse here. They can get a Bachelor of Arts in English and psychology. Some of those are not present right now, but they can get a degree in business without ever leaving. It isn't a Red Deer College degree, it's a collaborative degree. And so it'll be a U of A degree, but it will be very clearly stated that they spent time at Red Deer College. And we were extremely well thought of, as the academic leader of the college when I was there. Both U of A and U of C and Lethbridge valued our students, meaning we prepared them well. They always said that our students did very well in their programs. And so it was a time of partnerships. And most exciting for me when we were there is we got our first applied degree. Like, there was a big debate then, there seems to be theoretical degrees and there are practical degrees. And we're a community college. Shouldn't we be focusing on what they called an applied degree? So that it wasn't just a book study, there was far more emphasis on practicums, being right out in the field. And the first degree that we got, which was just so amazing and so exciting for the whole college, was the motion picture arts applied degree. And that was wonderful. We had people coming from all over once it was here, also well thought of. So while I was there, we looked at getting more and more applied degrees, but it didn't really catch on too much because they still weren't recognized in the same way in all fields. Like motion picture art is one that they're very well thought of, because you want to make sure if you're having motion picture arts person graduate, you want them to have had a lot of hands-on experience, and that's what we offered. But it was a feather in Red Deer College's hat, and that was a great thing. So I felt that at that era, 1996 to when I was there to about 2004, was a real time of partnership for Red Deer College. Partnership with universities, partnership with, we built Bethany College side, which was a partnership with Bethany and with the Red Deer Hospital. And that was a wonderful opportunity where we involved the residents or the patients at Bethany, and we'd have students coming over and taking them out to different events that were in the Performing Arts Center, and staff were taking courses there and whatnot. But it was a good feel. Red Deer College was part of the community. It was a vital part of the community. So I think that was a great partnership. I think it was a time, certainly in Ron's time, of going out into the community and saying, how can the college and this business, or how can the college and this agency, how can we work together? How can we both complement each other and make each of us better? And there was a lot of that. And I think that was a healing period kind of for the community. Now, people who lived here before me would have a better idea of that. But to me, when people would speak to me, they would say, before the college was removed from the community. And I really feel there's an effort now for the college to be one of us, be part of us, it should be an asset to a community, and people should feel that it's their college and that they can come. So there was I think that was a really good time for the college. And we started partnering then with high schools at the other end. So students were able to take courses in their high school, and they would count as credit in the college, so they could get some credit. So that was a time where we looked at how can we make this transition easier? How can we help more students access the college and whatnot? So I see that as a partnership too, and that seemed to be what dominated, I would say, my years at the college. Is we were very big on trying to find fits, either with universities, with the community, with students, with whoever. So it was a good feel, and I think it was good for our faculty, and it was certainly, our students had a heads up. They were getting lots of experience out in the community. People were bringing our students into their business, or whatever, and doing way more practicums and whatnot. It was all about partnerships. How can we work together? Now I rambled a bit there, I think, Bob. But.
No, I quite appreciate the overview, but behind it there were structural changes, and I guess I'm sensitive, particularly when you're in the public sector, to the separation of operation from capital.
Yeah.
In terms of funding. But when you joined the college, I've got a figure of around 6,000 to 7,000 students.
Yeah.
And somewhat to my surprise, I found that was the same figure for the University of Lethbridge.
Yeah.
So on a college basis, it seemed, it was certainly as big as that. But has that been a fairly constant figure, or did it go up to that?
I believe, I haven't kept as close a tabs as I probably should have. When I went on to council, I kind of threw my my emphasis in life over there. But no, I think there has been growth, and I think what's even more important to me than growth is I see some programs are starting to change a bit. I think we're offering the same thing, and that used to what I always say, we need to make sure that we're offering where there's gaps in terms of workers. That's where we need to be. And certainly in health, because that was my field, and although I wasn't involved specifically with nursing when I was at the college, while I was there, we took on the healthcare aid program, which we had never done before.
The
healthcare aid.
Okay.
And it was like a 6 to 8 month program, and we trained.
Is that separate or different from the certified nursing aid, or?
No, they're all pretty much the same. They have everywhere you go. They have different names, but they were for the long-term care institutions and whatnot, and the LPN, and nursing was always a licensed practical nurse. which has really taken the place, I think, of, I would say, I graduated as a registered nurse with a 3-year program. LPNs have a 2+ year program, and I think they do pretty much the same thing. I'm working at the hospice right now, and they don't even hire RNs right now. They hire LPNs. So they've been able to take on more of the skills that are required, and I think that that's really helped our whole healthcare system in terms of getting staff. So that has really grown, and they're obviously right now the focus in the college is developing their own degrees. They have finally gotten degree granting status. So I know they're developing a business degree. I think they've broadened their education degree. Red Deer College used to specialize in middle education, but now I think you can do other streams. But somebody else would have to talk to you about where they are right now. I haven't kept up with that, but I like the direction that I see them taking, and I can't really tell you about a whole lot of new programs that they have, but I've listened to them. A lot of them are in health, like those were needed programs. The other one was pre-apprenticeship programs, that was when they're trying to get more women as well into apprenticeship, and they would say, they would have a preparatory program where you could try your hand at a number of apprentice specialties and see which one you liked, and then say, yeah, I could do this. This is what I'd love to do, and then they would move into there. So things to help students, and again, as I say, to transition. It's really to encourage kids to get.
Reminds me of some chats I've had with Joel Ward. Yes. Over time, and I guess even within from a personal point of view, that I see the professions remarkably increasing the pre-professional, or you have to take this to be able to even apply a number of years. And I look at medicine now, it's almost a minimum of 4 years, but before if you go to Calgary, you can graduate in 3 with an MD, and I shake my head at saying, this is awfully costly in terms of time. But the flip side of that is trying to, and this is the chat I had with him, is trying to help the student look at his own skills, his own interests, and so on, and help direct them. Yeah. I remember from a personal perspective taking those kind of skill inventory tests at the U of A when I went, and they told me I should be a teacher. And I look back at the way I'd filled out the answers, and kind of think I'd skewed them a little bit. Oh. I did end up in medicine, but at that time, that was the level of.
Did you do any
help.
Teaching in medicine? I shouldn't be interviewing you, should I?
I've done some, but not a lot within medicine.
So I was going to say, I love nursing, but I love teaching more. Yeah. I love teaching nursing. There's nothing that was, I just loved the opportunity to influence somebody else's success in a profession. You know what I mean? And I love that. So you can pursue one thing, but have another on top of it, kind of thing.
Well, I ended up taking an MBA. I did a master's degree in surgery, and then, which in retrospect was very interesting because it was right at the time when the U of A hospital, they were looking at intensive care units and which way should they go, specialized or generalized, and they were actually a little behind in that development for a number of, I guess, other reasons too, because they didn't have a lot of money to make decisions. But I then took an MBA, and I ended up in medical management for most of my life. Yeah. So yes, I've done
exactly. So they're related, but they're. Yeah.
I've done, I've done certainly some practicing and locums and stuff, but. I took medicine because I'm not sure I was liked for my answer. I said it gives me more choices when I finish. Yeah. And it did. Yeah.
I have 3 brothers who are all doctors. So
yeah.
We kind of chose that. We call ourselves the medical Mulders.
Well, I hate to be competitive.
Yeah.
We come rather close.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm trying to think of the major physical expansions that have occurred. There's the healthcare, the Bethany sector. There's the performing arts, and then there's the main complex. And I don't, I'm not that familiar with how it's divided up or what teaches where. I mean, the business school went downtown just for a while. And
that was again in the interests of joining the community.
Yeah.
Being part of the community downtown. But while I was there, the biggest expansion was the information commons or the library. Which
right.
that was done during my time there, and we fundraised. We also obviously got many donors. But it was a great fundraising opportunity for the college, and I think it was another opportunity to bring the community into the college, because community people can go in and use the computers and whatnot. We joined with the library, the city library downtown. They became inseparable, so you could use your card at either or. So I mean, it became another great, I think, community partnership that we had. But that was big when I was there. And then they did the one out front where they built the new cafeteria and they built a classroom complex. Well, I was there, we were so short on space that we were bringing in portables. I remember that because we had to join them in the winter. They were very cold to walk through while you walked through the part where there was no real heat. And I was trying to think, because I've forgotten when they were built, but they were built after the information commons. So a whole new suite of classrooms and a forum which had food opportunities for students, because there was very little at Red Deer College before, and they brought in things like Starbucks, and that was a real draw for students. We had pizza and we had everything, plus a cafeteria.
Yeah.
And that was a real move for the college that made it a college that people wanted to attend more to. There was more to do, for kids. It was a nicer place to be. It was more social and stuff like that. And then, of course, the new building that they built,
the Harris Center.
The Harris Center,
Yeah.
and that is just a phenomenal center. I was active in the Canada Games, and that's where I was centered, and it's a beautiful complex, and I think that's again really an addition that puts Red Deer College a bit more on the map and brings it more into the present day, because we really didn't have a lot before. We were pretty basically classrooms, and other than our performing arts, because we had the Arts Center that the Arts Center and the Information Commons were both linked with the city, meaning the city contributed to both of those. So they always had an interest in them, and we always had a kind of a contract or whatever that made sure that the community, because they had put, I think, $1 million into each of them, that there were some rules and regulations around community access, so that the citizens were knowing that their taxes that they paid and that were contributing to these they were getting some benefit from it. So, but I think that's good.
I've been very impressed that, particularly in the more recent, from the turn of the century, even before that, at how willing the college is to discuss, to plan, and in some cases to get together, like the Harris Center,
Yes.
with the community.
Absolutely.
And that some of the things it's done have not been done in isolation or solely from the point of view of the college, but rather from the point of view of the community.
Yeah. And I think that's important. Really, when we were there, it was a community college. So
I mean, and the community is so advantaged, with access and
absolutely,
and B, with an opportunity that they individually wouldn't afford or couldn't afford. So that everybody benefits.
exactly.
Not just the funders, but the participants.
And I think that's a drawing card for our city, is that we have a college and the college warm, and you're part of it. This is your college. It isn't my college, or it wasn't Ron Woodward's college. It's your college, and we'd love you to support it. And We want you to participate in it.
Can I go back to the model that the college has evolved to? I'm passingly familiar with the Ryerson,
Yeah.
technically orientated college. I won't say filling in around the university, but certainly offering programs that they didn't. And is there a comparable to how the Red Deer College is grown? I mean, I'm familiar with the Lethbridge University, which is clearly modeled on an academic setting university. But Red Deer just seems to be different, either because of the way it's evolved or external influence. I won't say that, and perhaps the oil and gas industry is one, but certainly a focus on apprenticeships more so than universities can be, or that the Nate and Sate aren't enough. But I mean, I'm not familiar with a comparable model or similar center in the country.
There's not a lot of polytechs, that have the breadth of programming that either Ryerson or Red Deer College has. And Ryerson is certainly much bigger than Red Deer College. Ryerson did not have apprenticeship programs, so like they had more technical programs, like chemical programs, mechanical programs, those kinds of things, more like what SAIT had. And then they also had a lot of diploma programs, and they became degree granting as well. Now they refer to themselves as Ryerson University. So I think there's a feeling, I know that people think a polytech is like one step down from a university, is what I'm just saying that's the perception of people. Now, when I talk to my faculty that I still see now walking my dogs or whatnot, they were disappointed, for instance, that we became a polytechnical institute, because they were really hoping to become a university, so that it would be the University of Red Deer and we would offer only degrees kind of thing. And I say to them, I can't share that with you, because I believe that we're serving our community, and either that or we'd have to have Red Deer University, and then we would have to have a college, or we would have to have a technical institute or whatever as well. And so that's a totally personal opinion. Not everybody would agree with me with that, but I think
the flip side is you'd have to discontinue or transfer a number of your programs.
Yeah.
If you did that.
Yeah.
And I suspect that became a difficult question as you looked at least temporarily, while there was a potential university designation or recategorization, but that's what it would have had, something would have had to been done with
exactly. Because otherwise it's a limit, it would be limiting for our community, not a, I think it would be, it's a higher, universities are obviously considered higher on the echelon, and certainly our faculty, I used to have these conversations all the time, they were a little bit hesitant to be associated with the apprenticeship people. Not that they didn't like them, but they saw them as two different things, and would have preferred that they were a SAIT, for instance, a SAIT or an 8, and that the college was more a university. So there were certainly difference of opinions. I really was quite happy to see it go the Polytech route, and we really are. I don't think there's any other than Ryerson. I think we are pretty much one of a kind now. In other places they're separated. We'll have to see what happens. We're very young in terms of Polytech. So, and I don't know that there's others. I could be wrong. I haven't done a research on them, but I think ours, with the apprenticeship and the focus on apprenticeship, and apprenticeship, as you know, comes and goes. There's a real rush on it, and then it's a real downturn, and so numbers are always fluctuating. But personally, and like I say, it's a personal bias, I just believe we should be serving our community and offering students, a wide variety of students, an opportunity to enter the workforce and get a decent diploma, degree, or apprenticeship program. I just think it's important for people to do all they can do, and not everybody can do university. Not everybody can or wants to, or maybe they can, but they don't want to. They don't have that initiative, that they need to do that. They're more focused in this direction, and then they just shine, and do well.
I can't resist in the look forward by being unique. I don't know whether it creates some funding challenges for the government or for the college, RDP.
The RDP, yeah.
But if you are, the word isn't different, but if you are unique and you offer a very wide variety of programs, then you may have a challenge saying, do we support, promote this end of the spectrum or this end of the spectrum? And
that was always the balance. It always is a balance,
Yeah. I think that's, if you are unique, that you got on one hand make a pitch for funding, on the other hand make those kind of decisions, and if you have some additional dollars wherever they come from.
Well, apprenticeship is funded separate from
is it?
the rest. Yeah, anyway,
okay.
So
and that's not entirely, it's not a complete problem. You're not choosing academic dollars versus apprenticeship dollars.
That's right. So apprenticeship, they don't. Apprenticeship funds apprenticeship, and post-secondary, education funds the rest of the program. So.
But does it have any long-term implications in terms of its stability, or it'll be limited in its growth?
No, I don't think so. Like they're moving on degrees, which is making me very happy. So they seem to be. I think they've got the best of both worlds right now, and I think that's great. There's a number of degrees that are ready to be, hot off the press. I think they'll do well. I can't. I think our uniqueness just means there's more opportunity. I don't think it means anything else. I think the opportunities are greater, and more people can access us. And I don't think it will limit us. And I think we do have a good name. I will say that. Even when I was down east, I heard about Red Deer College. So even though they called the city Dead, they knew Red Deer College.
Haven't heard that expression for a little while.
They said, you're going to Dead?
Oh dear. Yeah. As we've gone through these interviews, the first two share that somewhat negatively connotated word, but everybody's been very positive about their experiences, lives, and contributions, whatever, to Red Deer,
I think Red Deer College is I think it's got a firm foundation. I don't see it waning. What I used to struggle with is if I got my degree at Red Deer and it said BSc Red Deer, what does that mean? Because nobody knows Red Deer. You know what I mean? Whereas you say if you're from U of A or U of C, they know. So there used to be that worry, is that we might have the degree, but would it have the same value? Because you know what academics are like.
Good point.
Yeah. And so that's why I think when I was there, I said I'm comfortable with having a collaborative degree if that's what we can get. If we can have our own degrees too, that's great. But as long as we can provide our students the opportunity to get their degree, and if we can keep them in our community rather than send them away,
Well, I guess from, again, personal experience, having a university in your community is a plus and a minus. It's minus in that, it's a plus in that it's less expensive. It's a minus in that, at least I found at U of A, the participants by the students from Edmonton in our extracurricular activities and whatever was significantly less because they were going home.
Exactly.
Or they had to catch a bus or something.
Yeah.
So I just felt badly for the local students they were missing.
Yeah.
We were having, even if it was just fun.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
If you lived in Edmonton, you didn't live in a frat.
No.
So as an experience, it was different. On the other hand, it's significantly less expensive, and I understand the sensitivity required, especially as educational costs are going up.
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing like the States, but certainly going up in Canada too. That becomes, an increasingly sensitive issue for, families without a,
Exactly.
extra family income to afford that, and means you have to borrow or whatever. But I just look at it as a plus and a minus. I wish I'd had an opportunity to stay at home on one hand, but you also mature by
Yeah.
being on your own and having to be financially or whatever responsible if you
Oh,
go
exactly.
away.
And some kids are, and I was one of them, we just couldn't wait to leave home. I had a very nice family, but I used to count days I wanted to get it. I was in a small town in Saskatchewan, and I thought I couldn't wait to get away.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's that too. People want to,
Yeah.
kids want to, try their wings, and then there's those that are petrified to move to the city, and so having a smaller place is a wonderful kind of refuge for them. Yeah.
I can't resist the closing comment that as I look back on what I've learned, or the new book we just finished that I'll share with you later, but Red Deer as a nidus, a center for education, well beyond its borders, doesn't go back to the college in 1964. It actually goes back to high school in 1939. And the first
Wow.
small community to welcome rural students on a significant scale was Red Deer. And it changed the system. It, in fact, was the basis. I'm sure there are other influences, but Red Deer had gone to a 3-semester system, which it did just after the war. And eventually the province went to at least a 2-semester system and soldered off. But those of us that participated in it just felt we were getting almost a university type, at least avocational experience, because there were so many students. Half the students were from outside town, and they were experienced. They were there with a focus. And then through this exercise and the other one, I discovered that the average provincial mark on the grade 12 exams from students from Lindsay Thurber was 20% higher than the rest of the province. And I must admit, I disbelieved that it was even possible. Even you had the greatest teachers.
Wow.
But it was because students were there for a purpose. They were there for a reason, which goes back to the central issue you're referring to, that's fine to have a great teacher, a welcoming teacher, a friendly one, a learned one. You need a motivated student, too.
Oh, absolutely.
And the difference it can make. And then when you put the two together, it's 1 + 1 = 3.
Exactly.
Well, anyway, those are, I guess, didn't expect to get into some personal commentary as much as I have, but I'm sensitive to the college because I missed it. It didn't exist when my decision time came in 1958, but it would fit perfectly with my brother that we've interviewed earlier, except it started off with pioneer first attempt challenges, and I think the students paid for it a little bit in the first couple of years. He was lucky to be able to go on, but the flip side was he learned what his biggest problem was, and that was going to be English, so he took engineering. he learned.
That was smart.
Anyway, it's been a delight, Lynn. I did particularly want to focus on the not having somebody like Ron Woodward and others to chat with, to be able to go back into the college history and measure it through the eyes of the faculty. So I quite enjoyed that, and particularly your forthright answers and your ability to generalize and look at a longer period of time is a delight in these interviews, because it puts places like the college is so into the larger context of good people doing a good job.
Yeah.
No,
Good.
delight, and
Yeah.
I've got
Thank
to
you.
thank you. No,
Thank you.
my privilege and pleasure.